Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Kemau to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talking about home affairs, hey, in diaspora, current affairs, hey, reliable information, history, ooh, talking about culture, hey, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this exciting edition of Focus on Liberia Between the Headlines. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Between the Headlines, we're going to be looking at some current issues, things that are happening this week in Liberia. And we're going to be talking about, for instance, the president was to arrive today, and then there was this call for people to assemble as usual. You know, when I was in church, we used to say, we are marching to Zion. So they were supposed to be marching to Zion to welcome the president. What happened? Is it true? And then there was some conflicting memo saying people who should be there or would not. We're going to find out what really happened. Also, the legislative staff at the Capitol building, they set roadblocks. They blocked their senators and their bosses from going to a meeting because they say, we too, we can eat. So they are protesting for unpaid benefits. Say when you call the senators or the legislators for a special session, they are getting paid. And so we too, we want pay. Also, 47 prisoners in Kakata broke jail. They broke jail, and some of these prisoners include murderers. Some were sentenced, some for making terrorist threats, some for rape, some for other criminal, tough, some harsh crimes. And those people they escaped. 45 of them, so 2 were arrested. We're going to talk about that, what's going on. And the 2024 budget recast. Why are they recasting? We will find out. And what are some of the cuts? We understand that we are getting more money. We listen to the LRA person say we are getting more money. So when you recast, we are expecting you to put more money somewhere, but it looks like there are cuts. We're going to look at those areas that have been cut and see why this is happening. I want to welcome all of you. Let me welcome Mr. Anthony Sie, the political bulldog. He's here. He wants to be a part of this. Welcome, Mr. Sie. On mute, please.
Dennis, thank you. And I want to say I'm happy to be here. I want to welcome our viewers in the cyberspace to join us and be part of the discussion. Let's do this.
Thank you. Let me also welcome, anytime we talk money, we want the bank vice president to be here. So we've also invited Mr. Gabriel M. Carter. He's the host of FOL Marketplace. Mr. Carter, welcome to the show.
Dennis, thank you for having me.
One of those who wear many hats as an attorney, a forensic accountant, economist, is Anthony Wonder Konyene Freeman. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm happy to be here.
Let me also welcome, last but not the least, Dr. Joshua William. Welcome, Doc.
Thank you, Dennis. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you. Dr. William is a political commentator and also an educator. I want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, and we are here focusing on some current issues in our country. Let's start quickly, and we're going to be there. We are here for an hour. Some of you want to watch the American political debate. Please share the show and let's talk. Dr. Williams said the president was coming today, and there was memo from the Internal Affairs Ministry. Say, let everybody, all of you, let's go. Allegedly, that memo they came out. They said, well, that's not true. We recognize it's Wednesday. Everybody's working. So why we want to carry everybody? Before that time, the minister Mika said everything that lie. This whole idea that when the president is coming, we should go to the airport. And I saw some, pictures, maybe they're old pictures or not, that people actually line up to welcome the president. We saw that with President Weah, and the same thing continue. Is this business as usual?
Well, I will say no, to the extent that the Minister of Internal Affairs did come out. I had the privilege of listening to Spoon a couple of minutes ago, and the Internal Affairs Minister actually did come out rescinding that decision. What I also think is that as a nation, as a people, we are evolving, and every opportunity for this government to change the trend of things that had persisted decades and decades ago is being undertaken by this government. I thought the president, from my insinuation, from listening to the news and the Ministry of Information, it suggests that the president isn't one person who's open to that level of demagoguery and has called off any attempt to bring the nation out to meet him at Roberts Field. I think it's laudable. I like to thank personally the Minister of Internal Affairs, the minister himself, who took responsibility for the situation, but also recognizing that there is an issue, and that issue is information coordination in government. Every time we have situations like these, it provides an opportunity to re-examine and begin to reset. And I think it's an opportunity for this government to reset in terms of how information goes out, who's playing what role. I see too many PR agents in the government, not giving enough time and opportunity for the Ministry of Information to play its statutory role. And that's becoming a problem, with the hope that this government can address that gap.
Attorney Freeman, is this an information management problem or just old habits die hard?
I think it's more of the latter. And of course, when you have people in your government who see you repeating the same mistakes of the past, they don't hesitate to think that it's just another rerun of what has happened in the past. I mean, nothing about Walker's administration so far to date have shown any break from the past. So it is not mistaken that Internal Affairs will think that they are still on past activities to call for people to come. And in fact, I have seen pictures of people lining up on the airport to meet Mr. Walker. I've seen that myself, so it's not strange. I mean, that's it.
Mr. Carter. So there was some information here and there, but the Internal Affairs Minister came and cleaned it up and said, hey, I mean, we just boo-boo this one, but we don't think people should be going to the airport and meeting, only relevant people should be doing that. So that memo say at least we have 5 persons, so are they trying to turn things around here to break from the past here? But I think because many people welcome the Internal Affairs Minister coming up to clarify instead of covering it up and kind of taking responsibility.
Yeah, I think we can applaud him on that. I think that was very swift in terms of responding to that. We can applaud him if we want to for doing his job. But I think it goes without saying that the memo is actually out there in social media, right? So somebody circulated that memo, whether it was doctor or it's fake, But I do applaud him coming out to make that statement that that's not what they're trying to do. And I think it will be a it will be a laughing matter if you have 60 people in Tourage and still want people to come out to welcome you. That is, I mean, how many? You already have 60 people with you on the trip. How many more people do you want to come to welcome you? That's a welcome party within itself. So, um, all of us expect this government to be the it factor, meaning they're supposed to be different. There's supposed to be an aura of change to how they do things, right? But from since what is it, 8 months in, it hasn't been that. We haven't seen that. Taking 60 people on a trip and coming back and wanting a whole group of entourage to come and welcome you, I think that would be you know the same old from what we saw from the previous administration. So I hope what the what was it, the information minister said is true, that they are not bringing people
Internal
to
affairs.
come and welcome
Internal
internal
affairs.
minister, whatever his name is, to welcome him. So I hope. Again, I think I said this on the show yesterday. Hopefully, from now to the rest of the year, we can see a little bit of gradation in terms of the changes that shows this president or this administration is doing something different from what the previous administration, was. Thank you.
Mr. Sia, is the president or the administration turning the corner here?
Well, Dennis, is yet to be seen. And your first question was whether this is business as usual. I would say yes, this is business as usual. I might even argue that this is even worse than business as usual. My reason would be we are talking about Unity Party here. Unity Party government is not a new government. Unity Party held power for 12 years. Government is not new to Unity Party. Unity Party was in opposition for 6 years and decry why, senior government officials will go to the airport all the time during Riaz time, to welcome the president. So to see Unity Party repeating this, and now because people are condemning it, they are trying to back away from it. It's just unfortunate because this is something Unity Party should not even be doing in the first place. Then it is true. When President Bouacar took over, he made a trip and people went to the airport. It happened 2 times. 2 times President Bouacar traveled, and upon his return, there were members of the cabinet who went to the airport to welcome him.
Exactly.
All right. So, and at the first time when it happened, people condemned it. So to see a memo coming from the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and if you read the first memo, it said by directive of the minister. It didn't say ministry. It said by directive of the Minister of Internal Affairs, and his name is dead, Honorable Francis Sakili Yumale Sr. The memo carried his name. It stated the date, the time, and known that the president will be coming, and it said all staff of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. So sweepers, security, ministers, deputy minister, assistant minister, all employees were being summoned by the director of the minister to go to the airport to welcome the president. And I see some of my colleagues here giving him credit because he went on some kind of media institution to say, I take responsibility. Should that have even come from him? All the years.
To a point, the memo was signed by, written and signed by Sam Brown, the deputy, not the minister proper. He was out of the country, or is out of the country.
I just read to
So
you.
it did come from them.
I just read to you. Let me read it again.
Okay.
Let me read it again. By directive of the Minister of Internal Affairs, Honorable Francis Sakili Yimale, who is the Minister of Internal Affairs. By
That's
his
it.
directive, it
Hmm?
means that whether or not he's out of the country or was out of the country, he has full knowledge.
Hmm.
The directive is coming from the minister. So for that minister, because this action has been condemned, he's not going to a platform to say, I take responsibility and people are giving him credit. It's like telling somebody, I can kill somebody today and say, I'm sorry, and you people will give me credit for saying sorry after intentionally and willfully taking away the life of somebody. This man should not get credit. I condemn this in the highest term, and this should not happen again. This is business as usual.
Thank you,
That's
but
perfectly right. I agree.
the killing example, that's little over the top. But isn't that
That's too
supposed to
extreme.
happen if people make mistake and come back and say, "I'm sorry for what I did"?
They're supposed
Because
to apologize.
if we
I
don't,
But
think
not
I
for
think
somebody with 40 years of experience.
if we
It's
don't
supposed
accept
to
people when they
happen,
say
but it's supposed to
sorry,
happen
then
for rookie.
they will always remain recalcitrant. So let's say good that he says sorry, but let's move on to our next issue, right? The legislative staff. Okay, they set roadblocks. First of all, it's not clear whether the legislator called themselves or they were called by the president. According to them, when they are called by the president, then they have to get paid. If they call themselves, they don't get paid, right? So this time the staff was saying, "Hey, you this time too, we need to get paid too." Besides, other things that are happening is they've been the 45,000 for cars are being approved, given to them. I read somewhere where once one representative took his money and tried to build hand pumps and latrine in the Morovia Mamba Point. I mean, when they were talking about building latrine and hand pump in Mamba Point, I said, is it what we've come to now? Mamba Point and Central Morovia, we're building latrine and hand pump. But with the 45,000, because let's not forget, these people get 45,000 car, and every 3 years that car is determined to be, salvaged. So they take it themselves; they don't auction it. So the staffers want to set roadblocks and say, if you don't give our money, we can't do it. Right now, some of them went and say, "Hey, why? How are you going to like Bebo Brown say, hey, how are you going to be here? I know we talked before." So they say, okay, today we'll remove the roadblocks. If you don't do something about it, we're coming back. I mean, Mr. Carter, should this be happening? First of all, what we've seen in recent time is we start with something that's supposed to be last resort is what we start with. I mean, why are they starting with roadblocks? I mean, as the first step.
Yeah, Dennis, and I think I was say this, and I side with I agree with I agree with them in terms of resorting to that, if you want to call it last resort. You have a group of people, ministers, representative, making 15, some were even, I think we heard about 20,000, 22,000 a month. And you have people at the lower level barely making enough to, even afford to get to work on time every day, right? And this is if this is what they have to resort to, then so be it. I said this on a show yesterday. In Liberia, we don't have representative, even though the name they just carry the name. We don't have people or agencies that actually fight for the interests of this average citizen, including the civil servant individuals in Liberia. Like I said it here yesterday, in the United States, if you don't like something, you can put it on a ballot box, right? You can get signatures and get it on a ballot box, and it makes it to the poll, and the people can vote on it the next election. Those individuals, we don't have that in Liberia, right? The representative who's supposed to be representing them, the senators who's supposed to be their, uh, you know, their voice, are not doing that. You know, we have Liberia. I don't know when's the last time you guys been to Liberia. Liberia is expensive. Liberia is expensive, especially in our region. You paying somebody $150 a month, 175, even $200. That cannot go anywhere, right? So these guys have every right to, protest, if you want to call it that, to make sure that something happened and somebody listen to them and come to their aid and make sure that they pay a livable wage. I think what they're demanding is a livable wage. And that 200, 175, 150 cannot go anywhere in Liberia. So this is why I agree with them. But I think somebody in the representative, whether it is the Senate, the House of Representative, or some agency, there got to be a body that is able to voice the interest of Liberia to the government itself. Meaning, if we, let's say, every one of us here are senators and we're making 150 in addition to car subsidies and gas subsidies, they should be able to put that on the ballot. Say, I don't want any of you making that. You're already getting your monthly allowance. We want that off the ballot, and that should be able to get on the ballot. And the next election, they should be able to vote on that, and that should be able to be taken out. They don't have that.
Thank you.
That's the reason why they're resorting to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sia, why should this be happening? This is not the first time that our staff members are demonstrating and protesting for their benefits. Why does it keep happening?
Then you are good with parables. What is that parable that said, bad soul, they said what, bad medicine? Mm-hmm. Do you not know that the legislature is bad for Liberia? Then here's the thing. During Ellen's time, whenever the legislature was called, the staffers follow because they have to work along with them. And during that time, just as the legislature or the legislators were getting paid, the staffer will get paid because when the executive called them, the staff have to go to work. So coming to we are time, it stopped. Whenever President Weah called the legislature at the time, the staffers will not get paid. So coming to Boaka time now, they said, look, we're not going to take this. That is why during President Weah time, there was similar protests. Because each time the members of the legislature were called, they would get paid and the staffers would not get paid and they would protest. If you can remember the consistent protest from the staffers, that was what was happening. So during Boaka's time, they said, well, this is Unity Party. During Ellen time, we used to get paid. Maybe we'll get paid. But that is not happening. Now, the argument, whether or not they call themselves or the president called them, the fact is that the president called them according to Senator Darius Dillon. They were called to recast the budget. The legislature did not call itself to recast the budget. These are greedy people who want money at every inch they get. And one of the ways they make quick money is when they are called to do a piece of job by the president. So the people were called to recast the budget. They let the staffers went, so the staffers needed to take pay too. So they have already taken $45,000 for cars. They have no provision for the staff to get a bus at least. And then they are getting paid and they're not getting paid. And now school opening, they have to pay their children's school fee and all that. And here's the thing, then anytime the budget of the legislature increases, all right, or increase, the salaries or the income of the staff don't increase. When there's an increase, it's either for legislative, something, engagement, and so on, and pet projects. That's why can increase their budget. That is more money for them, but not for the staff. So the staff have every right to protest and demand their just benefits. I mean, they were a little bit, sympathetic to them. They should not have allowed them to enter the building at all. I rest my case.
Yeah, that would be fighting fire with fire. Anthony Freeman, when President Weah was on the way, I remember the song the staffer was saying, Judge Weah go, Judge Weah go. Now Judge Weah has gone, the problem still exists. And at that time when they were, that last protest, right? Members of the people that were sympathetic to UP, they were like almost, as we say in Labrador, pushing on fire. Now the same thing has come to them. So why is it that Judge Weah left and we still have the same problem?
Well, Liberia have decided that they will only be choosing between the two worst people in the Republic of Liberia in terms of leadership. So it's a choice between the two worst options, and that's why you get. So they both are trading accusation who's the worst for Liberia. I don't quite agree with them. I sympathize with their condition, but I don't agree with them. I think the House should govern by the statutes governing public finance and the statute governing procurement, all of that, and they should be subject to audit. And what is happening is because there are no rules and regulation, so they tell us they are doing system audit. But at the end of the day, everybody who receives government money should be accountable. And the rules are already established by the public financial management law and by the public financial management regulation. So I don't know the internal procedure they have, but I know those rules supposed to be compliant with the government overall rules. So the protest I would want to see in Liberia is the public being angry that this house has spent up to 800 million without audits. And so they think that the money for the Republic of Liberia is theirs to use any way they want. This is criminality. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. So the people are not getting angry. Those people, like the workers who are getting angry, they're not telling all which rules say they should be entitled to it. But I know that the House of Representatives has failed totally to follow the public financial management law. They fail to follow the procurement law. They fail to follow the local government law. And they're just doing their own thing. And at the same time, they are saying that they are conducting public hearings on audit. I mean, you yourself have never been audited. How can you preside over the audit of other people? This is laughable. But again, like people say, elections have consequences. If the Liberians decide that they want the two worst people or the two worst parties in Liberia to be changing leadership, that is what they're going to have.
Thank you. Dr. William, root cause analysis is always a better way to look at it. It appears to me that the protester is like, okay, why are these people getting all this money in the first place? So the protesters are saying, even though this money is illegal, I'm not saying illegal in the sense of law, but this money is almost like stolen money, but give our own. We deserve it. So it appears to me that we are not actually protesting against the root of the problem.
No.
Legislators, they are making so much money. They have cars, 45,000 cars for every 3 years. I don't know your place of work. When was the last time they give you a car or gas? They got gas slip. They got another money for legislative engagement. All kinds of money. There is no protest about that. The only protest is this other part gave my own. And
we want our share.
For many Liberians now, they are sympathetic to the staff, but the money that the people getting is just ungodly.
Dennis,
are we misdirecting our anger here?
You're quite right. What we see happening with the staff protestation is, what do I say? Not unique. It cuts across all sectors of government. Civil servants across the country, the level of inequity, wage inequity is so wide, such that the guys at the top are the ones who take the bulk of the money. And those who actually do the bulk of the work, the foot soldiers, and we can argue how much work do they do, but they're the foot soldiers. They run those institutions, and they barely get paid in comparison to what their bosses take home. I've listened to, for example, the LTA. I've listened to what representatives and senators are taking home. In all honesty, where it's daylight robbery of that country. I think as a Liberian who have held, in relative terms, a position to live comfortably in Liberia, you don't need more than $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 at the very least. I mean, at the very max. What is going on in the country is robbing the country in daylight, and I see that these staffers are simply reflecting what I will see as a deeper issue. There is a deeper issue at the Capitol that this is not the first in the last, President Walker has been in power now for about, 8 months?
Yeah,
And
okay.
already there's been at least 2 protests from staffers. That says something about the legislature. That says something about the leadership in the legislature. That something like that will happen. It's like a father walking out into the street and wearing the nicest of suits, but his children are out. They're not in school. They haven't eaten, and that's exactly what's happening. And the fact that they're so insensitive as to even put forward an argument that we were not invited and we were invited speaks volume of the mentality that these people who lead us do carry. So for me, first of all, the protest at the Capitol by staffers is just a signal of a much deeper issue, a much deeper issue. But there's also the greater issue of a lack of wage standardization. It should not be left to the legislature to decide what they take home. An independent wage board ought to be established to standardize wage across the country, from the presidency down, so much so that the country is saving resources instead of leaving it at the whims and caprices of the legislature to make their own laws, structure their own standing within the budget, and exploit that gap, much to the disadvantage of the larger portion of our population, the educators, the health workers, our streets and all of that. And so the hope, President Booker has just been in office now for 8 months. We're still going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Yes, he's been in government for over 40 years. And you would think stepping in, he would have had his ducks in roll. There's still a lot to grapple with. I get the impression he wasn't very sure he would have won, and so winning caught him off guard, and it's taking some time to put his house in order. That's too much to grapple with. We're hoping, and we're being just enough to give him some time. Yes, expectations are high. Expectations are really high, and rightly so. But he has even greater liabilities on his hands to make sure that he can address some of these situations as quickly as possible.
Thank you. So for each of you, for just 30 seconds, how do we solve this problem once and for all? Let me start with Mr. CA.
Which problem?
Staffers protesting for money. All the time we have this problem of they coming back, right? It's just a matter of time before we see this again. How can we address this issue? Because as we said, and alluding to what Dr. Williams saying, this is just a symptom of a bigger problem. So how do we resolve this, Mr. CA? On mute, please. And each of you take 30 seconds and give me your solution.
Yeah, Dennis, we got to first standardize our pay system in Liberia. It should not be done by the legislature.
Okay.
Maybe the Civil Service Commission should be given that power to do so, to decide the pay of the president, the speaker, everybody in the country. That should decide that. When that is done, it will lead to a significant drop in the pay grade of all the big shots in our country, thereby, generating more money to pay the people at the lower level, and that may become very constant because we subtract.
Mr. CA, before you go further, when you say they will even agree to say we're getting 200, they put the rest in benefits.
Benefits and all will be standardized. And yeah, we can eliminate the scratch card, everything. Yeah, that's a solution to me.
Gabriel, what's your solution? 30 seconds.
Yeah, Dennis, I mean, I think it's simple. Everybody's saying the same thing here. There has to be some level of standardization in terms of the pay scale. Every company you go in, there's pay grade. Based on where you are, there's pay grade. If you move on to the next level, there's pay grade. For a country that came out of war, 21 years ago, we have to put ourselves in an austerity measure that will allow us to have some level of money to do the things that we want to do from a development standpoint. But if we're giving out all this capital to people that are, senators and representatives, we won't be able to get anywhere in terms from a development standpoint. So there has to be a level of standardization, pay grade. There's perfect example in the region that we can copy.
And
and
who
do
should
the work that has
lead
to be.
that?
I think I hear people saying the CSA, but I think this has to
No,
be.
So
It has to
so it's
an
start
before the
with the.
president,
independent,
let's say.
an
It has to
independent
start with the
panel.
president. It has to
All right.
start with the president
Thank you.
to do executive order
Kanye.
to bring that into effect.
There are two ways we can go about it, or let's say three. So what you guys are saying, setting up a commission, that would be the long range plan. But the short term, of course, Bwaka can pass an executive order and put a freeze on gas slip. He can put a freeze on scratch card. He can put a freeze on purchase a new vehicle. He can put a freeze on just about anything. But the problem is, will he do it? No, because Bwaka, his long history in government show that they go to government to milk the system. So if you are expecting the man who went to government to milk the system to be the same person to lead a reform, well, I wish you luck. But obviously, in the short term, he can write an executive order and put a stop to it. In the medium term, the next year budget, he can correct some of those things. And then in the long term, he can, set up this commission that can go and restructure. But he is not going to do any of that because this was a man who was hungry and he went to public service to milk the system. And now he's milking the system. There is no likelihood that he's going to issue any law to reverse the milking of the system. I'm sorry, but that's what Liberia chose, and that's what they have to live with.
Mr.
Thank you.
Freeman.
Dr. William, you conclude on that.
Yeah, I understand your sentiments, and for the sake of keeping hope alive, I will say this much, that we will continue to look at this government in good faith with the trust that sooner than later, a lot of the reforms that we're talking about, our contribution, even in this moment, as we speak about it, will help shape and direct things in a positive way. An independent commission or panel would do us well at this time. You're right. There are lots of executive orders that he could pass on. It does not make sense taking 60% with you anywhere in the world. It does not make sense. It only costs government money. Whether the tickets are bought free or not, government puts money in the pockets of every member of the delegation. 60 members, that's a waste. And so a panel that will look at the structures of government. We do have, unfortunate to have spoken to a former central bank governor the other day. And I asked, are you in the US or are you in Liberia? There are people in Liberia that can be used. The capacity is there. All that's needed is the will and the leadership to make the transitions that we're all envisaging. So it's not a difficulty to happen. Yes, it's 8 months. A lot could have happened in 8 months. I grew up, and all of us, we're all Crowder boys here, we grew up in the 70s. The Monrovia I grew up in, from the transition from Tubman in 71 up to and including the coup or the assassination of Talbot, we knew what Monrovia looked like. We knew what the country looked like. Things worked. Yes, we've had war, but we've also had opportunities to change it. And my only plea to this president and this government is that instead of focusing on the billion-dollar project and embarrassing ourselves in the process, why don't we address those things that are within our grasp?
Thank you.
Like policy reforms, like closing the loopholes to some of the problems we're having, all of the wastages. Let's tighten them up. We cannot have a situation where we're trying to bring in billions of dollars, but we lack the foundation to receive the billions. And then what happens? It seeps out again. Out. And we continue to repeatedly, cyclically make the same mistakes previous governments have made. If we're going to focus on corruption, we still have a lame duck asset recovery team. We have not empowered the LACC to do anything. There is just so much that can be done. I'm not even sure what our educational policy looks like. I'm not sure. Nothing has come out of the ministry till now. If it has, I haven't heard of it. Health-wise, what is our strategy? Governance-wise, what kind of government do we want? What kind of government do we want going forward? We haven't started to put ideas to the table to transform governance in Liberia, whether it's economic, political, social. Nothing has been done. And we're running behind 300 billion to come. It's not going to come. And even if it comes, it's not going to benefit us. Because
you're going to seep out the same way, right?
Yeah, the necessary foundation we need, we've not put time into it.
Thank you.
We've not put time into it. And President Boyka has an opportunity, unlike President Salif in our first term. He is not going for re-elections. And so he should owe nobody anything.
Well, you don't know that because he's an African leader, so you don't know that.
President Boyka would not go for
No, you don't know because he's an African leader, so you don't know that.
Thank you. I want us to move to our next issue, which is the jailbreak in Kakata, right? So first, there was newspaper that reported that there was a jailbreak, and they reported that 100 prisoners escaped. And at a time, there were like 3 police officers or prison guards on the scene, 3 or 4, including 3 female. Well, at the Mika press briefing, they said no, that's not true. In fact, there were 47. And out of the 47, 2 were apprehended immediately. And in fact, they had like 13 police officers. They even called for backup. They got these guys outside so they can do a search. After the search, they told them to go back in, and then there was commotion, and everybody started running everywhere. I mean, the story did not add up to me that much, but I've not really been in a prison yard in Liberia, for the past 30 years. So I may not know. The thing that, scared me is they have 45 people. I think 5 of them were, sentenced for murder. Or you have people that are rapists, people that are terrorists or issue terroristic threats, people who are drug abuse, and all these people are out there, right? And another thing is people were kind of reacting. We're not, ahead of the. Does this scare you, or Attorney Freeman?
Well, it doesn't scare me because, except for the rapists and the murderers or so, some of these people are just been denied arrest to free trial. But look, guess what worries me more? In the office of the president, you have 2 of the worst criminals there. And the president has never mustered the energy or the fortitude to sack them, to investigate them, to prosecute them.
What do you mean? Worst criminals? Who are worst criminals?
Oh, well, 2 people who are trying to shop $80 million of project on the Liberian people, $80 million. They're trying to squeeze it on the Liberian people, the illegal activity, and the president is backing it up as a gentleman agreement when he's supposed to be running the country under the Constitution and under our statutes. What has he done about it? So those are things that concern me more. 149 million at the finance ministry, force or payment for debts. Nobody arrested. Central bank, all the president did was change the central bank governor. But by right, about 20 or 30 persons should have been arrested at central bank and prosecuted. So those are things that affect the country more. And Mr. Boyka, unfortunately, like I said, I don't have a lot of hope because this is a man who is presiding over the stealing. So for him to lead the charge to arrest those kinds of things would be difficult. I really don't see it because, like in the case of the central bank, even the Supreme Court had issued a stay order. So by right, when the Supreme Court issued a stay order, the man that he put in charge should no longer be at the central bank. Has he done that? No. LTA, the Supreme Court issued a ruling. He has not done that. So Boyka is leading the country downhill. I mean, for those who want to hope that he will do well, I wish you luck. I wish you luck.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. William. It's because a lot of things now. We saw what happened at the CDC headquarters in Grand Jide. There was protests and people died. They killed people. They burned stores and now prison break, this jailbreak. I mean, is it? I mean, it's like nobody's home. That's how it appears like. What's going? Where's the leadership?
There is evidently a gap, a leadership gap, and that's happening at the very top of the government. And it's now being seen at many different levels, including jailbreak, whether it's with the police, LDEA, legislature. It's pervasive across the country. It will take some waking up for things to change. I'm hoping and trusting again that the president will see reason to take leadership. How he does that, I am not sure, but he needs to take leadership, and that leadership needs to be reflected in the pace of decision making in government. We're at the stage where the level of polarization in society is so high, very high, and sitting back and delaying ineffective decision making could prove dangerous to the president and his government. The level of volatility in society is really high, and it is upon him to address the gap. There's a huge void, leadership void, and that shows up just about everywhere. Decisions he make are undermined by his functionaries. You go to the functionaries, some people are just comfortable sitting in offices, no vision about where and how to move the institutions they run. And so it seems like everybody's on their own. There's not a center that's holding this government, and there's not a philosophy that's driving the process. And that's scary. But again, Liberia is all we have, and we can only stay hopeful.
All right. Mr. Sia, the president cannot be all places, I mean, I struggle to say, well, the president needs to act. But the president is coming home. Either he's there already or on his way. What should be his first order of business? Because it looks like things are, for some people, getting out of hand.
Well, Dennis, let me speak to the jailbreak issue there. We have very weak institutions, and they are all underfunded. We have very few people who are trained. We have very few people who take their responsibilities seriously. Government work in Liberia, some people take it for fun. You have officials of government that will go to work. I mean, some of them will deliberately stay home a day, say, well, there's nothing to do at the office. Let me shock you, Dennis. There are people who are working for the very legislature we're talking about. They don't have responsibilities. There's not even space for the number of people they hire, not only at the legislature, but at most agencies of government. For example, let's look at what you call it, the Liberian Fire Service that has up to 900. You remember when we interviewed the fire specialist here? About 900 firefighters who have zero training whatsoever. They go to work and play checkup. This is what we see. I mean, think about it. Imagine staffers at the legislature are not effective. Imagine staffers at the executive mansion are not effective. Do you expect an abandoned institution like, let's say, the prison, for example, what do you expect to happen there? Do you want to see efficiency in that place where people are not even paid? Let me shock you again, Dennis. The LDEA is understaffed. They don't have the total number of manpower they need to fight drugs in the country. Then you're telling me about prison? So, Dennis, we have a serious problem, my brother. So, here's the other thing. The EPS, Senge, when he took over, he said the place was overstaffed. The conventional wisdom was, all right, the LDEA is understaffed. Let's transfer the people and upbeat their strength. No people are hired by CDC people. He fired over 300 people. And those people don't have jobs. Now you have the DEA that's understaffed. They can't even fight drugs. Then you're talking about prison. That is an abandoned place. Anything can happen. Now, according to the press conference, the legislature, they had about 10%, a security person around. Then they call for backup, and 3% came, a total of 13%. Now, the 47 inmates ran them over. What do you expect? These are people that have not even taken pay. Maybe some of them didn't eat and they went to the work that day. What do you expect? Then they will have a serious problem. People don't take that job serious. People are not paid. People are not trained. That's what you have. Don't expect anything to happen at any prison seriously.
Thank
I
you.
rest my case.
Mr. Carter, I mean, Anthony has painted a very gloomy picture. You agree?
I absolutely agree with Anthony. But I think and I tend to do this a lot too. And sometimes I have to catch myself. I tend to give this president a lot of leeway, a lot of leniency, because he's old, he's just coming in. But I mean, if you keep looking at the failures in every area of the government, you have it becomes a hair scratcher. Like, how much leeway, how much leniency can you give this individual? Especially as we keep mentioning that this is somebody who's been in power for 40 years. You expect him to know his way around, the government in terms of making things work and know how to pull all the right levers. But in as much that I want to be a little lenient for him, I agree with Anthony. There's like everything that can go wrong in his government is going wrong. I mean, the least of them is the prison break. We have rapists running around. Yes, we can make the excuse. We have murderers in our Senate and every part of the government, but these are rapists that are running our streets. Who know if they will ever be apprehended and brought back to jail? So again, it goes back to the top. If the house is falling apart, everything in the house looks the way it is. So um, again, we can relegate that responsibility to the president. He needs to really, as I keep saying to him, end the rest of the year, and hopefully you can do a restart and maybe
Then,
start on a
then
new
let me just chip in
track.
for key point here.
Yeah.
The last time looking at the police,
we have 4 minutes to
there's a
close.
very key point. There's a very key point, Dennis.
Mhm.
NSA, millions of dollars, maybe 40, 50 million, I don't know, is poured down. How much is spent on police training? In the last budget, it was maybe 50 or 60,000. And Bwaka was the one who commissioned an audit of the NSA, knowing that millions of dollars were poured there. Then Bwaka said he loved this country because his slogan is Think Liberia, and love Liberia, build Liberia. You see millions of dollars being poured down the drain NSA. You commission an audit. Then you turn around and decommission the audit. Are you not killing the country? So to expect a man who is actively killing the country and you expect that he will change course and rescue the country, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen.
Thank you. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. With the 3 minutes we have to close at 9 o'clock, we want to be on top of the hour. 30 seconds, each of you, for your closing comment. Let me start with you, Kanyan. 30 seconds.
Well, we have a leadership problem on our hand. And unless we resolve that leadership problem, nothing is going to get resolved. Some of the problems can be resolved just by President Bwaka signing an executive order. Some of those problems at the national legislature can be resolved by instituting annual audits. They have been evading that. And when you start at the top and you start resolving some of those problems, that system starts to simmer down to the lower levels of governance and you start to solve some problems. If you leave the thing at the top, like for example, Bwaka got a lot of alleged criminal all in his office, he's not solving that problem. He's not going to solve a lot of other problems because the criminal are operating right from in his office. So those are the problems that need to be solved before we get anywhere.
Thank you. Dr. William, you're closing.
Well, thanks again for the invite. I think, like many of the panelists, all of us on the panel have agreed upon, there is a crucial leadership gap in the country, and we're hoping and trusting that the president can take hold of the reins of power given to him and the authority given to him to lead the country in the proper direction. Decision making is critical in such a volatile situation, and it is upon him to do his utmost in moving us in the proper direction. Instead of focusing on these huge budget issues, I think initially, in the first phase of his years, to build the foundation of a system that's transparent, that's accountable, and responsive to the needs of the country. He can do it. It's within his grips. Running around the world looking for money would not help if we don't handle the basic things that need to be handled at home. But we're hopeful that it will happen sooner than later. And, all hail Liberia Hill.
Thank you. Mr. Carter.
Dennis, I think I keep saying is in as much that I want to be lenient towards this president, I think it is evident that, he doesn't know what he's doing. Not only does he not know what he's doing, none of his ministries know what they're doing. And you can see that, every area of the government. Again, as I think we keep saying this, election have consequences. This is something that the Liberian people will now sit back and pinch themselves or maybe cry themselves to sleep for the next 5.5 years that's left. And then comes 2029, hopefully they will have wise up and make the right decision. But as we stand right now, I think if he continue on this path the way things are happening, he's going to be worse than President Weah. I'm just being absolutely honest. He's going to be worse than President Weah because we had a lot of expectation, for him, but so far there hasn't been an iota of, improvement in the country. So I hope again. Mr. William keeps saying, Dr. William keeps saying, hope here. Hope is not a strategy, but that's the only thing right now we can hang on to. But I hope he does.
Exactly.
I hope he does. That's the only thing we can hang on to, and I hope he does. Do a reflection at the end of the year and reset. I keep saying that he should reset, but that's yet to be seen. Thank you for having me.
Well, Mr. Sear, they said no matter how long a stump stay in the water, it's never going to turn into a fish.
Exactly. That is true. And the whole thing about hope is like we are hoping hopelessly. I don't subscribe to the whole thing of hope. I subscribe to work. I'm not a guy who I'm not a guy who count on hope. Hope is meaningless to me. I believe in work. Then is the solution to our problem, few things. I would name 4: leadership, innovation, transformative decision, and seriousness. I'll give you an example of 2 of my friends. They are not the best that are in the government. Emmanuel Yue Yakwabro is my friend. He's at the EPA. When he started, he took the book that they used to sign in, he took it in his office. He said, anybody coming to work here should come to my office to sign in. I want to make sure that people working here are coming to work and signing in. He's the first to enter. He's the first to leave. Everybody follow. My friend Josiah Joker will be the first to be at work. He will be the last to leave. When I was in Liberia, I was still with him at the office working up to 10, 11 hours until sometime when they carry current. So all his deputies, they follow because they see a leader who is working. They see the man is busy. Why would you want to be lazy? In Liberia, they say follow the leader. But what we see with our president, he's not transformative. He's not innovative. He doesn't make any transformative decision. He's relaxed. He's quiet. He's cool. What do you expect the people to do? Everybody will just play along in Liberia. They say follow the leader. But again, until the president can ensure that those that he appointed are taking their job seriously and he's checking on them and pushing them, things will remain like this. It didn't start with Baka, but it will continue. Baka has a responsibility to change it, let him change it for us. Whether or not that will happen, I think Dr. Williams said we should hope. So we hope, but I'm not hoping.
I'm going to hope, and I will.
And I hope he will call a press conference someday because I think he's gone almost 9 months without calling a press conference. Because press conference is one of the ways that the citizen can speak to him directly through the press and ask him questions. He has never called a press conference. I don't know.
Yeah, we hope as he comes back, he's going to do one and speak to the people. But let's close here. Mika think is not enough. We need to hear from the president and kind of set the tone of how the country should roll. Gentlemen, thank you again for taking up your time. I want to appreciate your time. I want to thank our viewers. Until then, we're going to close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Go and enjoy your debate between former President Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. Have a good night and God bless you.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
La Vira is our home. La Vira people. La Vira. La Vira. La Vira.